So, how's it going? How's it going with friendships, with people that you love, having those conversations that can be really, really difficult? Hi, I'm Eric Miller with Allied We Can. I was thinking about this over the weekend, Father's Day, and there was actually four of us in our family had the same birthday, which seems crazy. My sister did a research on this and found that 1 in 48.6 million chance that this could happen within one family. So I guess we're 1 in 48.6 million people have this happen. Families, I mean. So I was thinking about this and watching a few podcasts on division of our country, where things are at. It's just, never been this bad, in my opinion, and what I've seen in my now 59 years of being here on earth, as far as not being able to have civil conversations with people that don't think like us, look like us, believe like us, all the things, right? So I've made a few observations I want to share with you. Then I want to get into an article I put on Substack today that I hope you'll read more on. It's really, really good one about how to have these difficult conversations with these people. But anyway, conclusion number one is on the political side of this, is that if you're on an opposing viewpoint, and I'll just say it straight. So if you have a friend or family that's MAGA, stop trying to convince them to not be MAGA. It just will not work. I've tried many different ways, had many different types of conversations and ways in which that, and when you try to have a specific conversation about politics in this world today, it's just not possible in swaying them. I think the division in the where we get our media is so different, and how do you, if you can't agree on the facts, how can you even have a conversation? So I've just come to the conclusion, those people are not swayable, so don't even try. So then the next thing is about this. What is important to you? Is it important to you to win the conversation with a friend that is, in your opinion, wrong, has the wrong viewpoint, they're in a wrong group of people, all those types of situations? So is that important to you to win? And if the answer is yes, if that is the underlying reason for you to have a conversation about politics or divisive things, period, then you're going to lose the friendship or even the relationship if it's a family member. So I just want to say that plainly to you as well, because when you take away that need to win in this situation, that competition, that having to be right, that you take that away, then you're able to connect with empathy, with compassion, with that other person, see their point of view with not actually having to sign on to what their beliefs are. There's the other component I think sometimes gets a little bit lost. That just because you're listening to someone respectfully and not attacking them because of their beliefs, it doesn't mean you agree with them. It doesn't mean that you have to take their position at all. And I was confused about that for a long period of time. I thought, if I'm going to associate with myself with this person, then I am giving into my viewpoints and adopting theirs. And it's just not true. And I hope that this article I'm going to read to you gives you some hope into having these relationships that you want to keep, develop, maybe even get back. Relationships. I actually had that happen this past year, where we had a political divide viewpoint, and I actually got that friendship back because I just approached the person and said, "Hey, look, man, my relationship with you is more important than our political differences. Can we set that aside and have a friendship without letting that get in the way?" And that person agreed to it. And it worked out really well, really well. So some of the things I've learned for myself that I've put into practice. So these aren't, what I'm telling you isn't just theory. These are practices that I've done that are proven, that I've read about, then kind of switched things up a little bit for me and found what worked. And I want to present it to you. So the name of the piece is called How to Disagree Without Disappearing. there is a third setting between nodding along and going to war. So please share this article with someone you know that maybe even on the other side of the aisle that you don't agree with. Maybe if you care about the friendship, you can get that back, hopefully. Subscribe to our channel, please. I really appreciate that as well. And go over to Substack if you wouldn't mind. In the description of this video is a link to the article. Please head on over to Substack and support our work over there too, please. I really appreciate your help. All right, let's jump in. Picture the last hard conversation you walked away from. Most men only have two settings when they get there. There's the nodding along, where you keep the peace, swallow the take, and let the moment slide past you. And there's going to war, where you escalate and dominate and win the argument so completely the other guy can't back up. Both settings cost you. Nodding along costs you your spine. Going to war costs you the relationship. And most men ping-pong between the two for a whole lifetime without ever figuring out there's a third option sitting right there. And there is. It's harder than either one, though, and it's the only one worth learning. What the third setting is. The third setting is staying yourself in the conversation, being genuine, being authentic. I think we need more of that today, right? We need more authenticity of people instead of trying to put on this show, a performance, especially on social media, being able to be authentic with each other. It is so missing today and so wanted. You're not bending and you're not crushing. You're just remaining with your conviction intact, your respect for the other person intact, and the relationship intact when it's over with. It's the setting where you can say what you actually think and stay in the room with somebody who thinks the exact opposite, where you can hold your ground without trying to take theirs, where the disagreement doesn't need a winner and doesn't leave a casualty either. And it's the setting almost nobody's teaching because almost everybody's profiting from the other two. And I'm talking mainly here about the influencers online, on YouTube, wherever, that are selling hate, selling division, because they usually have a product they want to sell you. And that's why they're doing this. And the algorithms pay them, reward them for creating the hate and divisiveness. Where we lost this. We didn't always live like this. There was a time when men disagreed in person, knew how to argue without ending a friendship, and walked away with their views, unchanged, but their respect for each other still standing. That world has its own problems too. It wasn't a golden age, and it's not asking you to miss it, but it had something we're losing. The platform's changed. Disagreement on screen isn't a conversation, it's a performance. You're arguing with a person, but you're also performing for an audience, and the audience rewards the moves that destroy them most efficiently. Subtly dies, curiosity dies, the third setting dies. So here's the part that matters. The screen isn't where this gets fixed. The screen is the gym where we train the wrong moves, and we don't pay for them there. We pay for them later, away from the screen. When we sit down across a real table from someone we love and reach for the right instincts and find we've worn them out. That table is what this piece is about. Not winning the comment thread. The conversation that actually costs you something if it goes wrong. The core skill. The core skill of disagreeing without disappearing is holding two things at the same time. The first thing, here's what I think and here's why I think it, is what you say. Clearly undefended, not wrapped in apology. So let me repeat that. Here's what I think and here's why I think that way. So we're having a conversation with someone that is open, that is not going to be in a combative stance or position with you, because more than likely you'll have to say things. If they're in a combative stance, first of all, don't say that. Go back and say, hey, I can see you're upset right now. Let's come back to this another time. And then, schedule another time with them to talk about this, where you're able to get away from it for a bit and then come back and hopefully grounded and not in a combative stance. Here's the second thing. So having said what I just said, say, here's what I think and here's why I think it. Here's number two. I'm still here. I'm still listening. You're still a real person to me. Whatever I just said doesn't erase you. So you're able to say these things when you're in a position where you're calm. And by the way, watch your body language. When you're in person with someone, don't be in an aggressive position with them or aggressive stance with them. And you probably know what that is. Even defensive is you have your arms crossed. That's a defensive stance. And you're really leaning in. Maybe you're using a lot of hand gestures and your facial expressions are saying things too that has the other person on guard. So we can, without knowing it, I've been told that I have a very expressive face and that sometimes I wear that and don't realize that my internal thoughts are going out through my face and people may be getting the wrong impression about me at times. So I am really guilty of this. I have to watch myself. Okay, those are the two things. And again, one more time, just to reiterate that, crucially important that you're not going into this where they're in a combative mode and one where they're trying to win the argument, and also where you're not trying to win the argument as well. Most men can do one or the other. The men who can do both are the men you remember long after the conversations are over. They held their ground without making you smaller. They stayed themselves without leaving you behind. 5 things that I found that really help. Speak from your own experiences first. In my own life, I've found, fill in the blank, is a completely different stance than you people always. How many times have you heard that? One opens the door, the other slams it shut. You can say strong things from that first frame. You can't say almost anything from the second frame. Those other people, it kind of is the divisionness of our society today, those other people, and it puts us in a position of judging where our people are better than or more superior to your people. And if you go in with that attitude also, you're not going to be able to do these things I'm recommending you do. So go put yourself in check. If you really care about the relationship, this is what I'm talking about here. This article is written for you to help recover or to keep relationships you really care about and that are important to you. All right, so here's the next one. Ask a real question and wait for the real answer. It's not a I gotcha, not a setup, a real question. Here's an idea. What is it about that position that matters most to you? Where did you first start thinking that way? And said in a very non-confrontational way. The conversation will go somewhere you didn't expect, and that's the whole point. Notice what's happening in your body. So I mentioned this before. The disagreement that's about to break the relationship usually starts in your chest before it ever reaches your mouth. Tightness, heat, the urge to win, that temperature rising within you. You know that you're about ready to go into battle with that other person. So all those things are tells that maybe you shouldn't have that conversation at the moment. And if you see them also, maybe it's time you hold off for a little bit. The urge to win. When you feel it, slow down. The third setting asks you to feel the temperature rising in your body without firing. Be willing to lose the argument and keep the friend. How does that strike you? How does that feel? Where does that put you in your state of mind? Most men can't do this. They'd rather win the argument and lose the person because winning is easier to feel than presence is. It's a little bit challenging, man. I won't tell you that this is easy because it's not. I have very strong opinions, and in the past I've had these opinions that I didn't want to back down from, and I've blown it many times. And I'm writing this for you because I want to share with you that I'm not perfect either. But I found these things that when I realized that this relationship is really important to me, this person really matters to me, that is what I want to convey to you is so critical. I mean, we can't, there's not an endless supply of friends out there, that people that we have in our lives that are there for us, for the majority of the time in the tough times. And I saw this with when my daughter died last year. Real key people stepped up that I didn't think were real friends, stepped up. And quite frankly, I lost some people that didn't lose, but they just didn't reach out that I thought would have, and they just didn't. So those people come to the surface. So keeping those people when you had these tough things that happen in your life, They're really powerful relationships to keep. All right, let me read this again a little bit. So they'd rather win an argument than lose the person because winning is easier to feel than presence is. But the men who get this right know that the relationship is a long game and the take is the short one. Stop performing for an audience that isn't in the room. I'm talking about online here. When you're in a real conversation, you're not arguing for the internet. You're arguing for yourself and for the other person and for what's actually true between you. Drop the audience. The audience is the thing turning every disagreement into a war. I think I just mentioned this too, that, in having a conversation online that's tense, that's, maybe you wrote a social media post that someone doesn't agree with, and you're getting into a dialogue that goes south really quickly. I've had those also where I posted something that other people didn't find to be in their taste, and they came on the attack, and I quite frankly responded in not such a great way. Again, I learned this stuff in the hard way, a lot of it. So what I've learned to do is in that situation, don't have the conversation on social. So if it starts to get heated, you're seeing this, facts are being thrown out that you don't agree with, even a position that isn't fact-based in their world is fact, have the conversation offline. Give them a direct message saying, hey, can we have this conversation on the phone? Or better yet, in person is even much more powerful. There's a lot easier to say things on social media when there's a screen between you and you're not actually in front of that person where you can see them and touch them in person. I'm not talking about hitting them, but touching them to be able to communicate in a way that's good. So what's this look like across the aisle? Stop performing for the audience. Okay, so I said that right. The audience is okay. Let me go back again because I want to reiterate a couple things. So stop performing for the audience that isn't in the room. When you're in a real conversation, you're not arguing for the internet. You're arguing for yourself, for the other person, and what's actually true between you. Drop the audience. The audience is the thing turning every disagreement into a war. And there is no backing down a lot of times, right? That's you get into a position, the egos step in, and you're become unable to have anything but a war. And what's most important? Is it the relationship? What's this look like across the aisle? Let me get specific for a minute. The country we're in right now is full of men who can't have a political conversation with people they love. Fathers and sons who've stopped speaking. Friends from 20 years back, blocked. Whole holiday tables gone quiet because nobody at them can find the third setting. I'm not going to tell you your politics don't matter, because they do. And I'm not going to tell you all positions are equally valid, because some of them are really not. What I'm going to tell you is that almost every cross-political conversation that has ever changed a person's mind happened because somebody on the other side held the third setting. They didn't nod along. They didn't go to war. They just stayed there. They were present in their authenticity. If you can't find a single person on the other side of any disagreement, you can still actually talk to that information you can use. Let me repeat. If you can't find a single person on the other side of any disagreement, you can still actually talk to that's information you can use. You can use that when you can't find that person within them that you can actually address in a civil way. Maybe it means the relationship always was thin. Maybe it means you've lost the third setting and you need to get it back. So you got a couple things at play there. What will this feel like? Well, I can tell you it's not fun and it's not comfortable either. So I'm not going to lie to you. It's not comfortable. So having the courage to step up. I wrote my book, Allied We Can Find Common Ground. I talk about this courageous action taking, that sometimes we get ourselves in a position that we're going to lose. But what is the end game? What's your highest value in that? Is losing costing you your humanity? Is winning, I should say. Is winning costing you your humanity in that circumstance? Is it really worth it? Is it going to go against your core values and beliefs if you are all out no matter what to win the conversation. If that's the case, if that's the goal, then this is not for you, this whole article. It feels like you're not winning. Some days it feels like you're losing because you didn't destroy them, didn't get the last word in, didn't land the gotcha in the algorithms that trained you, that you're trained to crave. What it also feels like eventually is freedom, because you can walk into any room with anybody and not lose yourself. You can hear a take you find appalling and not have your whole day ruined. That has happened to me many times. You can love a man who voted differently than you did. You can be strong, you can be wrong sometimes and notice it without costing you your sense of who you really are. That's not weakness, my friend. That's the steadiest man a man can be. And that's one where you're not out to, dominate or prove that you're the man. When that alpha male culture, that manosphere, they're saying dominate the others in this situation, is what I'm talking about here. That is very fragile masculinity. It's unhealthy masculinity, and one that when you're in that position that you feel like you always got to win, it's very fragile in your relationships, because your relationships are always at risk, and who you are is also at risk, because what if you lose? When you lose that conversation, then your ego is bruised, all those things, and maybe you feel like you can't ever go back. So yeah, it's rough. It can be rough, but having the courage to be able to do this is powerful. So I want to leave you with a part that keeps me up at night, because this isn't just a nice idea about being a better man. The research is telling us that young men right now are carrying a weight no generation of men has carried before. And the third setting is one of the few things that actually lightens it. So here's what we know. Gallup pulled together 2 years of its data and found that 1 in 4 American men under 35 say they felt lonely for a lot of the day before. That's 25%, and it's higher than the national average of 18%, and it's higher than young women report. It also makes young American men the loneliest in the wealthy world that we live in, lonelier than their peers across 38 developed countries, beaten only by Turkey. And researchers who tracked 345 separate studies covering 125,000 people found that each new generation of young adults has come in lonelier than the one before it. So when I say these are the most isolated young men in history, I'm not reaching for drama here. That data line backs it up. And the loneliness doesn't just sit there quietly. The former U.S. Surgeon General declared in a national epidemic back in 2023. And the CDC has tied it to depression, anxiety, heart disease, and even worse things. Depression diagnoses in this country just hit the record high, with nearly 3 in 10 adults reporting they've been diagnosed at some point in their lives. Young men feel the worry most of all. 46% of them report being worried a lot of the day, compared to 37% of everybody else. These are men who look fine. They've got people to go to the gym with and to play games with. What they don't have is a single person they can actually say the hard thing to and still be in the room with them afterwards. That's the connection I need you to see. The men who can't disagree without disappearing end up with fewer and fewer people they can really be with. Every relationship that goes into war is one less place they can bring the truth to. Every relationship where they nodded along and vanished is one more place they're performing instead of belonging. The two broken settings don't just cost you one argument. Over a lifetime, they cost you the exact thing the research says it's keeping men alive. Real connection, the kind where you can be honest and still be wanted. So stop destroying the relationship not destroying the relationship isn't the soft choice. It's a survival choice. Every time you hold the third setting, you keep one more door open in a life that's quietly losing them. You're telling one more person they can be wrong or different or hard to be around and still not lose you. In a generation of men starving for exactly that, learning to disagree without disappearing might be the most loving thing you ever figure out how to do. So a lot of stuff there I've kind of shared with you on where we're at and what I found to be helpful. That it can be these changes, this isolation that I think a lot of us felt after COVID, but even more so the generation Gen Zs who grew up without, they had a screen their entire life, so they never were without it. And when you have those conversations where you get ghosted online and your relationships start disappearing more and more and more, and you end up losing, you could potentially lose everyone in your life. So I hate to see that for you, and I hope that's not happened to you. But if it has happened to you, now you have information going forward to be able to start a new relationship, even with someone who you don't agree with, doesn't look like you, doesn't believe like you. Their group isn't yours, but yet you can cross the divide and be able to have that relationship. My friend, I care about you. These things I've expressed are things, the vulnerability about myself sometimes aren't comfortable to share with you, but I do this for your benefit, that hopefully you can take these things and have a better life. Until next time.